I was in my office in downtown Jerusalem when the ram's horn sounded. There had been a gangland mugging outside the city limits. A Jewish man had been beaten up and robbed. The incident had taken place in a notorious neighborhood on the road out of the city. It was known locally as Blood Gully, a hangout for muggers and thieves. The local police were baffled. There were signs of a violent struggle, but the body of the victim was missing. This was a case for Aachan Solvitz, private investigator. The case of the missing body. I rushed to the scene on my camel convertible. I must get those humps in the bodywork knocked out. The thieves had long gone, and so had the body. I spotted stains on the sidewalk and took samples for forensics. A few turns of the sundial later, I got the report back from the lab. I expected the bloodstains, but there was evidence of olive oil and wine at the scene. It looked like we were dealing with a slimy drunk. The guys at the lab had also found white threads of cloth. I drove on down to Jericho and hung out in a part of town where some of the top clergy lived. It was a wild hunch, but knew that many of them had to pass through Blood Gully on their way to work at the temple in Jerusalem. My hunch paid off. 2 of them had been on the Jerusalem road on the day of the robbery. The first was a priest, and the other was a Levite, a temple worker. I took them in for questioning. The priest was the first to crack under interrogation.
All right, I confess to seeing the body. The muggers had fled and left him for dead. I would have stopped, but I had my best white linen suit on. We priests can't claim back laundry expenses, you know. So I walked on by.
The Levite then came clean.
Yes, I saw the body sometime later. He looked dead, so I left him alone. If a Levite touches a dead man, it really messes up his plans. Our rules say you have to scrub yourself clean and change your clothes. That's too much for a man to cope with in one day.
I got forensics to check out their stories. The white threads found at the scene of the crime did not match the white linen of their clothes, and there were no bloodstains on them either. I had no choice but to release them. I was able to sketch a photo fit of the victim from their evidence. I checked in at a local hotel for the night and got my first big breakthrough. The owner of the hotel recognized the photo fit image.
I know that face. That man was carried in here barely conscious. The guy that found him brought him here. He even paid in advance for him to stay at my hotel until he recovered. Room service is expensive. It was a big bill.
I asked the hotel to scroll through their records. They came up with the name and address of the mystery traveler who had paid the bill. I was shocked. He was not only from out of town, he was from out of country, a foreigner from Samaria. The mystery deepened. A Samaritan helping a Jew? It didn't add up. There was a history of feuding between the two nations, 2 rival gangs with their own territories, each out to do the other one down. There was only one way to get to the bottom of this. I revved up my camel convertible and headed out of the country. I really must get those humps hammered out. The moment I crossed the border, I could sense I wasn't welcome in these parts. No one spoke to me. I got the cold shoulder treatment. I didn't feel safe. I made my way through the shadows to the address of the traveler and knocked on the door. The door creaked open. I slowly unfolded the hotel bill in front of the owner's face. He didn't deny it was his signature. In hushed tones, he told me what had happened. I came across this Jewish guy face down in Blood Gully. He'd been mugged. I had wine and olive oil with me and mixed them together to clean his wounds. I needed bandages, so I tore my tunic into strips of cloth. Then I struggled to get him on my donkey and headed for a nearby hotel. The next morning he was better, but not well enough to get up. So I paid for him to stay as long as he needed. Looks like he checked out a week later, after a workout at the hotel health spa. His story matched all the facts, but to my trained mind there was still something that didn't add up. I looked him square in the eyes. "You're a member of the Samaritan gang. The guy you helped was from your hated rivals, the Jews. You've got some explaining to do." The moment I saw his body splattered out on the sidewalk, I knew he was a Jew. They dress differently to us. They speak differently to us. They think they're better than us. But I also knew I was the only one who could save his life. I had everything he needed: water, wine, and olive oil, cloth for bandages, and a donkey ambulance. I couldn't walk away. Stopping to help cost me time and money. But what's more important, my lifestyle or someone's life? I did what any good neighbor should do. I agreed not to release his name to the press. In my notes, I simply referred to him as the Good Samaritan. We said goodbye, and I headed out of Samaria as quickly as I could. The case of the missing body is now closed. The muggers remain at large. The victim has never come forward, nor has he been traced. He may never know who helped him or ever get to meet the man who saved his life. A life was saved by the actions of a foreigner who reached out to help a stranger in need. Which raises a big question for us all. When we come across suffering people with desperate needs, what do we do? Shut it out and walk by? Or stop and go out of our way to help?